Hello, everyone. It's Tia here with,
I'm Kim.
and we are so excited to have another conversation on masks off. And so for this episode, we are just noticing what is presenting in life and recognizing how often we just kind of want things to go differently than they actually are. And I'm sure many people can relate to that, where we're just like, wanting it to be different. And this quote, it is very short and very simple, sums up what I just said. So it's from Cynthia Lord. And her quote is, "Just this once, let it be easy." That's it. And so I don't know if any of you have ever had that thought of, why can't this just be easy? Or give me a break, or I just want a moment of not having to worry or navigate things that are challenging me. Just can I just have an easy day? You know, like the easy button. Remember the
Yes.
easy button? I don't know if that's around anymore. What was that, Office Depot or something? But so I am gonna pass it off to Kim really quick, because she was experiencing that in this past week. So you don't have to go into super details of what was showing up, but share what you feel comfortable, and we'll see where the conversation goes.
Oh my goodness. Like, I just not only want to push the easy button, but at times I just want to run away and be like a hermit and just live in a cave somewhere, or a monk and just have
Top
no
of a
one
mountain.
on top of a mountain with no one around me. Like, literally, I'm just like, where can I go? Where can I go? I started to even search the internet for retreats.
It got that challenging, huh?
Oh my goodness. It's a pile up because I'm down in Florida, and my husband and my son are working remotely. So they're both in the house, and that's new for all of us. So we're constantly in one another's space. And that this past week, my daughter came down for her spring break. And while I'm going to, first of all, preface, and I'm going to underscore that I absolutely love my daughter and love being with her. We had a spa day. We had a wonderful time together. We had even, her brother, they had some really, really nice moments. And yet, and I'm curious as to how many of you out there, if you take your mask off truly and can be honest and vulnerable and admit that, especially in these family dynamics, that the family patterns come to the surface. And a lot of that was happening. Those dynamics that don't really work very well, that haven't worked well. Because we all have them. Every family has their family dynamics. No one is exempt. No one has the perfect family and doesn't have something. Maybe some families have more than others, but we all have those family dynamics, because when we had our kids, we brought our own stuff from when we were children. We brought our family dynamics in. So as these family dynamics are rearing their heads, I'm like, like we said, Calgon, take me away. I just wanted to run. I just wanted it to be easy. Just can it be easy? And yet, I will say that because we're in the midst of I Am Whole, our process, I was using it often, like every day, multiple times a day. And at the end of it, yes, they might be doing this. Yes, they might be saying that. Yes, they might be thinking this. That may be all true. But at the end of the day, I had to go inward.
Yeah.
And I had to see, what is this doing? What is going on inside of me that I want it to be so easy? What is going on inside of me? Go inward, investigate, that I want to run away and hide, that I want to go to the mountaintop. What's going on? Am I not setting enough boundaries? That was often the case. I wasn't taking care of myself, self-love, right? Love in our I Am Whole. I wasn't balancing my mind, body, and spirit. My spirit was really depleted because I was giving out. And I remember We did do you remember this? It was a year ago in February when we did for Nourish Week in the Masks Off Facebook community, where I was talking about, we were in Florida vacationing, the four of us.
Yeah.
And how I was talking about how I was just like, okay, what is it that you want to do? What do you want to do?
Yep, I remember that.
I just kept giving, like, what does Kim want and need to do to take care of herself so that she's nourished, so she can be balanced?
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, okay, like a ping pong or, that pinball game. Have the bang, bang, bang bouncing off of everybody. Just like, okay, whatever you want, I'm here for you. Whatever you need, I'm here.
Yeah. Never mind about yourself.
Never mind. So no wonder I'm just like wanting it to be easy and I want to run away to a mountaintop. But that's not their response. That's my responsibility to be able to say no, right?
Right. So did you notice that you fell into that same pattern you had a year ago? That you weren't
I think a
taking care
little
of
bit.
yourself, or were you able to come back to it faster?
I think I was able to just because I'm more in my own routine here. So I still I still made sure that I went and did my exercise. I still went and played tennis. I went boxing. I think at one point, okay, but here's the funny thing. One day I did make sure that I did a meditation and I kind of just allowed myself to rest, but only because they were all at the beach. So it's like I had the permission because they all went and I was in the house alone. So then I'm like, okay, at least I had the wherewithal to know I had this time for myself.
Yeah.
And I was going to use it to make sure that I did do a meditation. I did just rest rather than being busy, like doing something else. So in that sense, I did a little bit more of the self-care, but there was this feeling of, okay, what do you want to do today? Rather than
others.
Yeah, exactly. It was other focused. And that's just a pattern, right? And so that's in our willing to take a look at ourselves. That's what I had to look at.
What'd you find?
That these are patterns that are showing up, that I needed to set boundaries, and that, I couldn't blame them. And I was getting irritable for sure at times. And by the end of the week, very, more emotional, way off centered. So, I mean, that's why I'm saying, where's that easy button? I want the easy button. And I mean, wanting it, we're laughing and making jokes about it in that sense, but that's not the answer of wanting it easy. That's just me being in resistance. So what did I find? I found that I was in a lot of resistance.
Yeah, because you were resisting what was actually happening, not just what was happening with the others, but what was happening within you.
Yeah.
So when we talk about I am whole and going inward, it can look like that. And it's so easy to blame everyone else. But if we don't have the boundaries, if we're not taking care of ourselves, we are just as inner chaotic as what we're witnessing. So we want that easiness so we don't feel the discomfort, but then we're putting all that responsibility on others, like you said, versus, wait, I can step up and empower myself. What do I need? What do I need? And I think it's you. I mean, you already said it, but I want to point it out once again that you took the time to take care of yourself because you didn't have anyone else to take care of in that day because they were gone.
Yes.
So did you, after you had that experience, did you start doing little things for yourself after that day you took care of yourself? I'm just curious, like, did you, because you recognized all of that. So did you make a different choice moving forward? And if you did, what switched? If you didn't, what stopped you? Because it doesn't have to be big stuff, you know that.
Right. I made little choices, to say no when, there was more requests for me to play tennis and my body was tired and I was like, no, I said no to that, I said no to going to the beach a couple other times. So I set a little bit more in terms of boundaries. Did I do more to nourish myself? Probably needed to do a little bit more nourishing, I think. Nourishing of my spirit for sure. Yeah. And what's interesting, the other red flag was that by mid to end of the week, I noticed where I was wanting to, that nudgy, urgy feeling to eat more. So,
That's a pattern, right?
That's a pattern when I'm like stressed to go back to that. So what's interesting is that I happened to listen to, I think it was the last podcast that Brene Brown had with her longtime friend. And I loved it because, first of all, that podcast or that particular episode reminded me so much of like ours, because, I think we're showing up when we're also in struggle, not just like when things are great and wonderful. And that's what I love about Brene Brown so much, is that she shares when she's vulnerable. She shows up vulnerable. And she was telling this friend of hers in the podcast, like, I'm in struggle, girlfriend. Like, I'm in big time struggle. And what the friend offered as a piece of advice or whatever is that it's really about cultivating a practice. And she was particularly saying gratitude. That's what helps her. And it doesn't have to be gratitude, because that one doesn't always resonate with me. What resonates is our process. I am whole, or anything going inward, but it's just like cultivating a practice.
Right.
And when you don't practice, right? What happens when you just don't use your muscles? Say you do core exercises. I do core exercises, abs every day for like 10 minutes for the last 2 years. If I stop doing them, my abs are going to get very weak. It's like any muscle that we don't use or work out will get weak or atrophy. So it's the same thing with our other practices for nourishing and balancing our mind, body, and spirit. If we're not practicing that, and that's kind of what happened this past week. I threw everything to the wayside. So I loved how she shared that it's not going to, because Brene was saying, how do we weather the storm of all that's going on in the world today? Like with, the war in Ukraine and the COVID and all the different things. Like, she said to her friend, how do you do this? How do you have joy? How do you have joy in the midst of all that?
Yeah.
And that's what her friend responded with, is that I cultivate a practice of at least finding one thing every single day that I'm grateful for. And that helps her to still connect with or tap into her joy in the midst of all that's going on in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love how you shared too, like for her, it's gratitude. For you, it may be something else. So there's no right way.
No right way.
There's no wrong way. There is the way that works for each individual, for you.
Yes.
And so my next question for you would be, because you knew this would be a week time frame, right? So this isn't a month or 3 months or your everyday life.
Right.
Is there a possibility that you let everything slide because it was just a week and you wanted to maximize all your time with everyone and enjoy, you didn't want to miss out? So could there be a flavor of, it's only a week, I'm going to power through and just take care of what's going on around, not worry about myself until later? I'm just curious, because I think I'm saying that because I know I can do that. Like, hey, you can sacrifice your needs for a week. It's okay.
Justify all the time. Justify. I do that all the time. I'm a pro at justifying. People pleaser are so good at it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There was a flavor of that. She's only here for 10 days. I don't see her that often.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even like I was necessarily spending all my time. It was because she midway through had a friend come and visit. So she was spending a lot of time with her friend, where she had less demand on me at that point.
Sure.
What was so tricky is just everybody's patterns coming up, you know?
And you had that, I would imagine, so much awareness of seeing all those patterns around you
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you've done so much work.
Absolutely. It's seeing, the interaction between when the four of us were together, the interactions between maybe just her and her dad, or interactions between her and her brother, or how that all played out. So that's more of what I was wanting to escape from and run from, because that was making me uncomfortable.
So is there because it was making you uncomfortable, is it that, oh, we've done all this work and here these patterns are still here? Like, shouldn't we all know better by now? Like a little
The
judgment?
perfection mask. Well, yeah, I'm putting the perfection mask back on, right?
Yeah.
Wanting it to be perfect and wanting it to be other than what it is. I'm in resistance to the reality of what is. The reality is this on any given day, because it wasn't like that every day, all day.
Sure.
Right. In any given moment, let's even take it in the moment. So M from I am whole, be in the moment. In some of those moments, it just was what it was.
Right.
That was the reality of it. In that moment, the family dynamics showed up and weren't so, stellar.
And it sounds like you're witnessing all these dynamics and a lot of them weren't even with you.
Meaning it didn't, it didn't involve me directly.
Yeah.
Sometimes it did. Sometimes it was
Not all.
between my daughter and I directly, that
Sure.
there were some of those, but then it was sometimes just, my son and my daughter, brother sister dynamic. Sometimes the dynamics between them were amazing. They were laughing so much and having such a great time. And then other times it wasn't, or between her and her dad, or whatever, a lot of triangulating, okay, mask, take the mask off, be vulnerable. I'm not gonna deny, I was triangulating, and that is a very unhealthy family pattern. So there, I'm taking my mask off.
Yeah.
Because I would have side conversations with my son about my daughter, or I'd have a conversation with my husband about my daughter, or my daughter and I about my husband. Like, that's an unhealthy family pattern. And that's an old dynamic that was showing up.
So what, because it's done, right? This is already
yes, it's in the past
completed.
now.
It's over and done.
Yes.
Not that it's done, because
No, it's not done, trust me.
in the future.
Yeah.
But what I'm curious is, now you have this time period that happened. You were working through I am whole. You were really doing the inner work, yet you were still getting hooked in the patterns. We're human. We all do that.
Yep.
So now that it's done and you can have that wider view of looking back, what are your takeaways? I mean, you said some of them, but like, what are your, okay, so let me rephrase that. What are your growth takeaways? Like, what are going to be your action steps moving forward to continue to reshape and reform and accept the isness, and then knowing it's going to happen again? How are you going to step into it?
So the biggest one that I was working on and will continue to, where I see is that going inward and taking responsibility, because every time something came up and I went inward and I investigated, and then I was willing to take 100% responsibility, right then it stopped me in the moment of being, of wanting or needing or being able to blame, because that, and then sometimes it just neutralized it. If I took responsibility and I saw my part in it, I couldn't sit there and blame and say, oh, my daughter this, or my husband that, like, or complain. I had to own and see that it was stirring something up in me, and that I needed to take care of me. That emotional, that part of me that's vulnerable and wounded. And so that's where I had come in, right, from I am whole, offer myself what like, all right, Kim, it's okay, or just breathe. And I did this over and over and over again because it kept resurfacing. So if I wasn't using that process, my imagining is that I would have been like a lot more at them, you know what I mean?
Sure.
And stewing even more and
Mm.
staying in it longer. So I was able to be aware, investigate, and aware that I was upset, I was activated, and then I just realized I have a string, string hanging, that I quickly went through and I was able to get to that place of taking care of me. And then it just brought me back to embodiment or embodying. So I was more in alignment. And then I was able to either speak up and say something, have a conversation if I needed to, or set a boundary, or if it was just truly something that I needed to do inwardly, then I could let it go.
So what's so great about this, just, listening to you is, and we say this time and time again on our podcast and in classes we teach, it's never done. It's never one and done.
Nope.
It's never like, if you're thinking your journey is complete, then you're just stop growing. You've made a choice to not continue and evolve and heal and grow and all that other stuff. But what you did is you use the process over and over and over and over, because you can't control what's on the outside. You can only control what's on your side, in your lane. And so just because you had to access I am whole, just because you were activated over and over during the week, doesn't mean there's not growth. In fact, it's the opposite. You were aware, you investigated, you went through the process. And because you went through the process, you didn't get hooked in.
Yeah.
And so that sums up the beauty of going inward continually. Like, where am I feeling why am I feeling this way? What's going on? What do I need? What do I need to take responsibility for? Because then you're taking action steps, even if you get reactivated 5 minutes later. So what? It doesn't feel good, and you want that easy button because you're doing the work. You're not doing the easy work. The easy work would have actually been to react.
Yes.
Think about it.
I know.
That's just reactive. That's just, I don't have to do any work. I'm just going to continue the patterns I'm witnessing by doing my patterns even stronger.
And if we take the whole thing, the whole situation, the whole week, and we compare it to nature, right? Like water, sometimes, water is very calm and still, like the water in the background of my Zoom, just like everything is calm and peaceful. But then sometimes the water is, flowing fast, like rapids, right? So this past week was like rapid water flowing. There was lots of opportunity for growth. It was like, and so while sometimes, many times throughout the week, I went under, my head went underwater, but I came back up because I was, learning to swim. I was learning how to, as you said, grow and move through and flow more with the water rather than allowing for stagnation, which would have been just choose to react and do nothing and just have drowning. Yes. That's a good one because we can feel very overwhelmed, right? And feel like, and there were a couple moments, I'm not going to lie and say, especially toward the end of the week, that I was, emotional and teary, and it was a lot, but I went back to the process. I went back again and I went back again over and over and really worked through it. And now here I am talking about it and sharing the process and how it worked for me and how it did help me to grow. I didn't drown, everyone. I'm alive. I'm here.
I'm laughing.
I am laughing. I did not get to go and run to the mountaintop. I'm here.
Right. That's right. And that is where the beauty is. So now, having had this conversation before we wrap up.
Yes.
What's your perspective of the week now? Is it so much that you needed the easy button, or can't life just be simple and everyone get along? And like, what's your perspective? Is it different? Or is
it is because I really know that when I'm in a space of inner harmony, and when we've talked about our other analogy, mountains and valleys, that I know it's an ebb and flow. Oh, and that was the other thing that Brene Brown talked about with her friend in that podcast, is everything is ebb and flow. So it's ebb and flow. Like, okay, so last week was a really challenging week, or it's been a challenging couple months, but it'll come back around where it'll be a little bit more calm and ease. And then it'll flow back into a little more challenge, a little more turbulent.
Yeah.
And so that's life, the ebb and flow of life.
So even our perspective of easy is clouded.
Yes.
So,
I mean, initially when I was saying I wanted easy, it was my little girl saying,
right.
I don't want to do this. It's too hard, you know?
But the reality is it was challenging and it was easy. It was just a different side of easy. It was easy because you were like, oh, I can see all these patterns. Oh, I need to go within.
Yeah.
So is it easy in that it's comfortable? No, but it's easy in that you've developed those skills and those tools and the process. So there's so much growth looking back on that week now. It's amazing. So well done.
Yeah. Thank you.
Done. Not so easy and easy.
Yes. Yes. And no, and you're right. I'm glad we had so much fun with it, you know, and obviously if I was still struggling, suffering, and in the midst, I wouldn't be able to laugh about it as much and have so much fun, you know? So yeah, that's it for me. How about you? Do you feel complete?
I feel complete. This was good. I mean, there's so many things I love about it, and I'm just going to leave it there.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for listening. We appreciate your support. And if you like what you heard, we would love for you to either hit the subscribe button or give us a like, thumbs up, or review. The feedback is always so important for us. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much. Bye.